Hey everybody, Steve, KI4KWR, here with Bob, W2CYK with RFinder. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
All right.
Good to meet you.
Outstanding.
So where are we right now?
We are in Huntsville, Alabama, everybody, and Bob decided to come visit us and show us the RFinder version B1.
Yep.
What does this radio do?
Well, it dices, it slices. Just kidding. I did grow up with Ron Popeil, so I had to I had to come up with something along his lines. But it's pretty cool. It's a cell phone and a DMR radio that never ever needs a code plug. It's never doesn't have a programming cable, doesn't have programming software. It just runs RFinder on it, the worldwide repeater directory, and just operates.
So I can use it as my cell phone
Yes,
and have a radio at the same time.
that's correct. And the cell phone, yeah, the cell phone takes precedence. So if a call comes in, the radio gets suppressed. But it can be your daily cell phone, your daily carrier, and DMR radio, and it works anywhere on Earth. It just works. You never need to program it. We update the DMR data and the FM data every day, and it's a dual band, so 2-meter 440 anywhere on Earth. DMR never needs to be programmed. You don't have to think about it. You land somewhere, and you literally pick the nearest repeater out of the list and just start using it.
Nice. How many watts out?
It's 4 watts.
Okay.
On 440 and 2 meters.
All right. And I can do any DMR?
Any flavor?
Flavor.
Oh, sure. Sure. Any of the Seabridge machines, TGIF, etc. Brandmeister, DMR Plus. We have a lot of users in Germany and Austria that like DMR Plus. And we fully support that. And we update the data from all those networks every day, as well as some of the newer like side networks like DMR IT, DMR Australia, DMR Australia. We just added this week. So as new networks come on, we add them to the daily load of DMR data.
Okay. One of the most popular questions we get every day here: what is the antenna connection on it? Is it SMA, BNC, mini UHF?
No, it's just a regular old SMA. As you can see, the antenna is an SMA female.
Okay.
So there's an SMA male on the radio, and you just put whatever antenna you want. In fact, in my car, I use an adapter, and sometimes because the receiver is very sensitive, so even with a rubber duck, you get pretty good. Like I hit machines 15, 16 miles away, no problem. But if I want to get some more coverage, I attach the Diamond 7 SG7900, and we're good to go.
Nice.
Yeah.
And this runs on Android, iOS?
Yeah, this is actually a full-blown Android cell phone. So as you can see, it's Android, okay, and you can make a phone call on it. It works great, and all you have to do is bring up the RFinder app, and it becomes radio. In fact, even if the RFinder app is in the background, it'll still key the radio.
On the current talk group or channel?
Yeah, yeah, whatever's programmed into it, when you key the PTT, it'll work even if it's not up on screen.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so this is the RFinder B1, and we're going to show you some of the functions in it. First of all, I wanted to show you that, in fact, again, this is a Android cell phone with all the usual Android cell phone stuff that you would expect. Those are my contacts. Try not to call my friends. The radio comes shipped with the ham version of RFinder in it now, but you can always update it from Google Play. And it's all point and click DMR, so you never have to program this. There's actually no programming cable. There's no programming software. It just runs the RFinder app, and it's the same RFinder app that runs on your Androids currently, and it just knows that it's on the radio, so it shows a radio front panel on it. So as you can see, we're in DMR mode right now, and we can see that I'm attached to a local machine here, the N4HSV machine on 442.275. And if we touch the radio front panel, it brings up the what I call the VFO. The ability to control power and mode. So you can see it does FM narrowband, FM wideband, and DMR. Right now we're set for DMR, so we'll have the DMR parameters, your DMR ID color code, and either talk group or private call number that you're going to, and then whichever time slot you're choosing. You can send the parameters to the radio and change frequency, the actual radio module in the device. You can also do memories, and even though you don't have to program the radio, it has the ability to keep presets. So if you use on your hotspot, for instance, a specific talk group time slot, you can store that as a memory. So it's easy to do. If I just um, press the Save to Memory button, I can create a new zone if I want. Oops. Obviously having bad aim right now. You can choose a zone, and right now we have a variety of zones. As you can see, I've been to Cologne and Pescara, Italy recently, but I was just in Las Vegas, and I'm just going to create one for Huntsville. So I'm going to call HSV. That's the mnemonic here, right? Okay, cool. And I'll add that zone, and then I'm just going to call this simply 3100 for a memory. Okay, and we'll save it. So now, if I go into the memories function, you can see that if I switch to HSV, it's now in memory. And I can store those memories into the cloud. So when I hit this button, it stores it in my RFinder account. And this way, if I ever have to reinstall the app, I can just pull my memories back without a problem. As far as picking a repeater, right now you can see we're in roam mode. So I'm not actually being asked for a talk group that I want to communicate with. But if I turn off roam, then when I choose the repeater, it asks me for what talk group I want. And you can reload the entire group of Brandmeister talk groups. Right. Okay, so on Brandmeister machines, you don't have to have, really have to know the talk group time slots, although we're making it now so that the system will start to know over time what talk groups and time slots are generally used on that machine. And we're in the middle of what we call the talk group documentation project to be able to do that. But on Seabridge style machines, DMR Mark style machines, if the sysop has document their talk groups properly, then they'll show up in the list. So you can see that we've got 3 talk groups on this machine, and if I choose to send it to the radio, it shows us the talk group and time slot that each one is on. So if I wanted to switch to nationwide on 3100, I just touch it, and you'll see that now on the front panel we're showing time slot 1, 3100. And it was all point and click. I never had to program the radio to actually do that. Excuse me. Okay, so it's very point and click, and this works anywhere in the world. So I did a tour earlier in the fall. I went to Spain, and when I got off the plane in Madrid, it worked. I just picked a repeater out of the list, and I was able to open it up in 91 worldwide English, and just started making contacts. I drove up to Avila, Spain, where the Spanish National Ham Fest is, and they put up a machine on Friday night setup, and on Saturday morning, it just showed up in the list. And literally all I had to do was pull down on it to refresh it, and immediately the repeater showed up in the list. So it's all very point and click, very interactive, not only between the user and the radio, but between the radio and the DMR data that gets updated every day, as well as the FM data that gets updated every day. So on the repeater list, you can sort by distance, frequency, or call sign. Over here, we have a new feature that's going live this week to be able to switch between volume. You can see that the volume is popping up here, and using the knob for channels. So I showed you memories earlier. Whichever memory bank is chosen currently, you'll be able to use the knob to switch between channels, and it's just a quick toggle to get to that. Of course, we map all the machines so that you can see your machines around as you touch them. You can see some minor information about them. So so that's the overall on the radio. There's some nitty gritty. Like for instance, we have the options of making the courtesy tone silent or not. We have if it's silent, we have lights, an LED light here that tells you whether you have a good connection or not to the local repeater, or if the slot is busy, for instance, the LED will flash. So we give you a lot of visual cues as to what's going on with DMR. You don't even have to have courtesy tone on if you want. Turning the admit mode on and off. Sometimes you want to just transmit unconditionally, even on a split frequency, so that lets you turn that off. Roam is kind of cool. It's a semi-automatic roll, so for instance, if you're using Brandmeister machine or using a variety of hotspots, you can just change frequency but maintain the same talk group and time slot. So if I have roam turned on, then when I change frequencies, you can see that I'm still maintaining the same talk group and time slot. And this is useful in areas where either the repeaters are DMR mark style and they're consistently configured. So you can move from one machine to the next without having to actually touch the talk group time slot parameter, or on Brandmeister. So for instance, you're driving through Europe and there's a lot of Brandmeister machines, for instance, in Switzerland. And you're driving along and each time you change frequencies, you want to maintain your same contact that's going on. So you turn roam on, you change to the next machine, and you just keep going on the same QSO with the same talk group time slot. You don't actually have to do anything else but change frequencies. What else? Oh, up here you can see RIT, XIT. So you can adjust the offset of the radio itself. Um, so, uh, so in your hotspot, normally you would adjust for the discrepancies between transceivers in the hotspot and whatever radio you're using. Okay, so let's see the thing actually work. And right now we're actually just a little bit too far from the nearest repeater, and I'm sitting in a Faraday cage inside this building. So we're not going to be able to hit a machine directly, but I do have a hotspot handy. Um, uh, and it's on 439 megahertz. And literally, if I want to change talk groups, I just come in here and change it. So I'll switch over to 91. And
definitely is going to be bad.
there we go. And it was that simple.
Not normally anything stops them coming out.
Just turn the volume down a little bit. But as you can see, it was that simple. It wasn't very difficult. Now, what I typically do is I'll create memories for my hotspot. So, for instance, if we look over here, I happen to be using a nano spot right now, and right now we're on 91. Here's 3100. So if I want to switch over to it, I just have to click it. And of course, that hotspot's busy on 91, so we're not going to hear any traffic right now. But that's as hard as it is to deal with a hotspot. Like I said earlier, the offset. Okay, so right now I have it set to -300. That seems to be the sweet spot for this particular hotspot. If I go into the advanced settings, I can adjust that very easily. Also, by the way, you've seen that the device is picking up the talker aliases. If you want to update the talker alias, the DMR user database, and we update this every day from radioid.net. If we say OK, it'll go and download the DMR user database. And it takes longer to download the database than it takes to load it. So once we actually have it, it should take about 4 or 5 seconds to load it. If you want to operate autonomously without having an internet connection, then you just pull out the menu, and you do 3 things. You go into BM hotspot mode and choose refresh groups. That refreshes all of the Brandmeister talk group data. You go back into menu and hit continental preload and choose the continent that you're on. So if you're in North America, you choose North America. If you're traveling to Europe, for instance, you might choose Europe and just preload all of the data so that you don't have to worry about do I have a connection or not. And then the last thing is load DMR user database. So what that does is it actually loads the entire DMR user database. Or I think we've gone up about 110,000 users in the past year. So on some of these radios, it takes about 20 minutes to load the user database into the device, and on here it just takes about a minute, including downloading and then importing the data, and it's all a single 2 clicks to get to it. In fact, the other day I was getting contacts, and we weren't seeing. There was a couple of new users on, and in the middle of receiving, I just quickly went in and started a user database download, and on the next go around we were able to see who they were. So very flexible, very easy to use. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about our current project with RadioID.net. It's the talk group documentation project. Many of you have probably noticed that that repeaters, especially DMR marked machines, that the open talk groups are not well documented in many cases, and we're trying to fix that. And we're doing a couple of different things to do that. The first is we and you know that when it's been done in the past, it's been very inconsistent on the formatting and stuff like that. So we needed to fix that to make it more structured. So we worked with Glenn over at RadioID.net, and we created a management facility for talk groups, and I just wanted to show you that for a sec. So, for instance, this is my machine in Wading River. It's actually sitting in the Wading River, New York. It's actually sitting in the RFinder lab. And you can see that we have a couple of talk groups already configured on here, the RFinder talk group and talk group 3100 on slot 2, and same thing for 91 on slot 1. So we made it so that we actually have a very easy structured way of managing talk groups. And what we do is we capture the talk group data and then we send it back to Radio ID and share it back so that Radio ID can then share it to the rest of the world, because we feel that it's that important that the talk groups that get documented, that it should be shared everywhere, to help support the growth and functionality of DMR. So we're working on that. We just actually have launched another thing, which is in beta just the last few days on a few users. In this list, you can see that we have a call sign of a user, a talk group, and a time slot, and a DMR ID. And this is the DMR ID of the repeater itself. So, for instance, if I clicked on one of these machines, you can see that the talk group documentation comes up on it. And we are passively now, from the RFinder radios, all the RFinder radios, once they get the latest update, will be capturing talk group time slots that are actually in use and sending them back to the database passively. Nobody needs to do anything. It just happens in the background. So we're actually going to be taking the activity going on the radios and sharing that with everybody so that we know what talk groups and time slots are actually in use on specific repeaters all over the world. All right. RFinder, of course, is a worldwide repeater directory, and we have some integrations with third-party packages such as RT Systems and Chirp. And RT Systems, we actually have some additional functionality. Many of you probably remember the old Travel Plus CD, and you were able to create a route on Travel Plus. We created the same functionality on the RFinder web search. So you can see RT Systems in the external data. There's an RT web search functionality, and we're the only ones that do this. There are some other options, but this is the only one of the the directories that works with RT systems that is able to do finding repeaters over a route. Okay, and it's pretty cool. And there's a few cool videos about this. You can find one on RT systems. If you take a look on YouTube and search for RFinder space killer, you'll find it. I consider it the killer app. And if you take a look at what we're doing here, we've got a start point of Huntsville, Alabama, and at any point of Xenia, Ohio, of course, where the Dayton Hamvention is. And I want to see machines that are 15 miles off the route. And let's just take a look right now at the route that we're going to take. And this route happens to be straight from Huntsville to Xenia through Louisville. But maybe I might want to make a stop in Indianapolis. As you can see, this is an option. So if I go back into RT Systems now and add that waypoint of Indianapolis, Indiana, and add it, you'll see that the mapping of the route will now reflect that. Okay, so easy enough. Now I just go into the programmer, click OK, and after a few moments, you'll see that we'll have the list of all the machines from Huntsville all the way through Nashville, Louisville, and going back to Xenia. So that's simple. And then you can just copy the ones that you want, stick them in whatever radio you're using, and write them to the radio. So literally, to create a route anywhere on Earth, except maybe from Panama City to Panama through Medellin, Colombia, you can't seem to get a route that way. And I can't seem to get a route across Lebanon to get to Tel Aviv. But other than that, it pretty much works anywhere on Earth if there's a route. I can't get to the McMurdo Station, Antarctica from Santiago, Chile, but maybe someday. So anyway, but that's pretty much how it works. So RT, we have full functionality with RT, and you're going to see some interesting things coming up with RT systems in the future.